Word of God, word of life.
Thanks be to God.
Grace, mercy, and peace be unto you from God our Father, the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. I want to focus really quickly as to where our red flag is. We're now out of the history section. You've now developed your history major in the Bible. B90 continues, and it will be continuing for quite some time yet, but we are now in the poetry section. We've just finished the Psalms. If you've been moving along with us each and every day, 12 pages a day. And if you don't know what B90 is, and if you're new to us today, it's basically a challenge that we started back in September that gives us an opportunity to read the Bible in 90 days. And you can do it within 12 pages a day. If you have not started that yet, that's okay. You can still pick up a marker that sort of looks like this. And each day then is set aside for what you need to read. So we're in the Psalms and the Proverbs and all those words that we can call poetry. Now poetry can be thought of words that rhyme. That's the kind of poetry I remember in elementary school and in high school. And then as we got a little bit more sophisticated, poetry were words that sort of painted a picture. A very nice and loving picture. Poetry expresses lots of emotions, lots of likes and desires. Poetry can be turned into music. Poetry can be said to your loved ones, especially on Valentine's Day. Who wouldn't remember? Roses are red, violets are blue. You're the best. And that doesn't rhyme. I was going to say, and so are you. But it doesn't rhyme. But you know what I'm talking about. Roses are red, violets are blue. That's the one that people remember the most because it expresses something really cool about the person you're talking about. The poetry in the Bible, though, the Psalms, Proverbs, are all about how we express our feelings about God. Words have a power. Words have a power, as Amanda said with the children, to do some hurtful things, but also some very helpful things, some healing kinds of things. So we're talking about poetry. And so I encourage you to still stay with your B90 and to continue with your reading. Back to words. Words have the power to do a lot of things. To build up, to break down, to express discomfort, to express great compassion. See if these words sound like any words that you've heard. I hate you. I love you. You know, I really don't like what you did. I love everything you do. Does this make me look fat? You know, there was a woman, I just read this on Facebook, I wanted to share it with you. Saw it this morning. There was a woman, or a man that said, my wife, now I just lost it. I think I remember it well enough. My wife, the guy's texted, my wife texted me and asked me if her dress made her look fat. And the man texted back, no, N-O-O. Great guy, right? Well, he goes on to say, of course, autocorrect changed it to M-O-O. He said, please send help. Autocorrect is wonderful. Wouldn't it be cool if we had autocorrect? Wouldn't it be really cool if we had the ability to change something that we might have said that we didn't really mean to say? Wouldn't it be cool to have autocorrect if you did something like that guy? had great intentions, but then it sort of just didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. The Psalms are words and poetry that David wrote, and then his son Solomon was the guy that is attributed to all the Proverbs that we have. Father and son duo with words that we remember. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. But Solomon's words are not necessarily as easy to remember because they don't flow necessarily the way we would think. But they're words of wisdom. Words, especially at the beginning of Proverbs, talk about how a parent would express to a child, in this case, a father to a son, the wisdom that the father wants to pass on to the son. Maybe you have some words that your parents passed on to you, that you use to this day. And maybe then you'll pass it on to your children. That's basically what Solomon was trying to do, just pass on some wisdom. Well, basically, the three Proverbs that we're dealing with today talk about words, and how words are very powerful, how words have the ability to break down or to build up. The first one, if you could imagine a long sword, and if you took the sword out of its sheath, and it was nice and sharp, you could see it in the light as it flickers back and forth, see how sharp it is. And if you can imagine in a sword fight what a sword would do to someone, and how you thrust, and how that sword would pierce that person's body, and what that sword would do to that person's body, think about that as your hurtful words. Words like, I hate you. Words like, you're worthless. Words like, why didn't you bring me the right tool? You can't do anything right. Why can't you get this math problem correct? I've tried to spend an hour with you, and you still can't get it right. What are you, some kind of stupid person? That kind of talk is like a sword piercing the other person's body. And it's not just the thrust in, but it's the taking it out and backing up. It hurts going in, and it hurts going out, too. Swords, words, and those hurtful words are not just like a wound that will heal right away. But if they're like iron, they might play those words over and over again in a loop for days or for months or for years down the road. Hurtful words, like a sword, pierce, cut, damage, give pain and suffering to the person to whom the words are given. Body shaming, clothes shaming, intellectual shaming, emotional shaming, shame in general are like a sword. You're so lazy. I don't know how you get anything done. Is that all you've done all day? Just play video games? Is that all you're worth? Why didn't you go and do more work? Do you hear those words? Are they words that you've said? Are they words that you've heard? We can say things without realizing just how harmful and hurtful they can be. Now, if you can imagine the sword, you can also certainly imagine a first aid kit. And if you get out the gauze, and what the gauze does then is to stop the bleeding, to stop and put pressure against the bleeding that is happening, to help the healing process. And words like, I'm here for you. You're you're not in this alone. There's hope for your future. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. You are loved. You do have worth. You're amazing at your job. You're good enough as you are. Those words are like a gauze, healing the hurtful words that pierce like a sword. Now the second verse is one that is also helpful. It talks about a honeycomb, and how a honeycomb and the sweetness of the honeycomb can sort of wrap around words and help the words go down a little bit easier. And when I heard that verse, it helped me, or reminded me of Mary Poppins. Everybody remember Mary Poppins? Just a spoonful of sugar helps them and go down, the medicine go down, medicine go down. Okay? Just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Just a sweet word from someone can help the hurting, can help that icky medicine go down in our lives a little bit easier. If there are kids that are struggling in school, if they're having a hard time with their tests, if their grades aren't exactly the way you'd like them to be, if your children don't necessarily grow up exactly the way you would hope they would have, a sweet word from you as their parents will help. They're feeling a disappointment, and maybe even disappointing you. And that doesn't necessarily stop when we become adults. Words from our parents, no matter how old we are, if they act like a sweet honeycomb or a sweet piece of chocolate that goes around those hurtful words, will help what we're going through go down just a little bit easier. Words also can provide life or death. In terms of our words from God, of course, the words that we hear are life in the midst of death, forgiveness in the midst of sin, resurrection in the midst of death that we deserve. Words like, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him may not perish but have eternal life. God so loved the world, builds up the world instead of breaking it down. We are a part of a world that is broken. And we add to that brokenness every time that we open our mouths and hurtful words come out. We're part of a broken world where our hurtful words, even when we intend them not to be, even if they're slips of the tongue, can dash dreams, can break hopes and relationships, can destroy what was just moments before a loving environment. But there are words that are just as powerful that aren't said. Have you ever heard the term, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all? Those are just as powerful. If you have something that you want to say to someone and you want to tear them down, if you want to say something hurtful because they hurt you, it's better not to say something that you'll regret. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all, is a good way for us to remember how hurtful our words can be. But there are other words that aren't said that are just as powerful. If we see someone being bullied in this world, if we see someone being broken down by someone else, and we fail to act or we fail to say something in their defense, those are just as powerful non-words as if we said it to them ourselves. When we fail to say words of encouragement or say words of support when someone else is being broken down, we are acting in the opposite way Christ calls us to help others. Christ reached out to people where they were in their lives. Christ reached out to people and spoke words of support, hope, and comfort, no matter who they were, what station in life they had. Whether they were a prostitute, a tax collector, a Pharisee, a Sadducee, a widow, anyone that met Jesus met words of hope and resurrected life. So I encourage you to think about the words that you use. I encourage you to use wisdom like Solomon was given. And think about the words that you use, or think about the words that you're not using and could be using. Words of encouragement, words of support, words of love. And see how that helps your relationships. See how that helps how things go at school, how things go at home, how things go at work, how things go here at church. We have someone who has some really good words. Can you stand up, Kara? What does your shirt say? Free hugs. Turn around, if you would. Okay? Perfectly good words to use. Free hugs. She's not saying it, but we're reading it. She could say it, and we could hear it. Those are the kinds of words that we need to be expressing more often. And I thank you for wearing that shirt today. Free hugs instead of something that would break us down. Free hugs instead of harmful words. Free hugs instead of hurtful actions. May that be the kind of words that we express this week to those around us.